Welcome to WCS Talks Unplugged, where we bring you real stories, real solutions for the mind and the planet. This podcast is brought to you by Women in Clean Tech and Sustainability, a global community elevating women's leadership, accelerating climate solutions, and championing a more equitable, clean economy. Every episode, we sit down with the thinkers, builders, and innovators, redefining what climate leadership looks like and doing it with purpose and heart. So settle in, take a breath, and get ready for an honest, insightful conversation that just might spark your next idea, shift your perspective, or inspire your own climate journey. Let's get unplugged.
Welcome to WCS Talks Unplugged. This series, we are exploring female founder journeys. We're talking to founders about what sparked their ideas, how they built their companies, and what challenges and pivots they encountered. I'm Trish Piniella, past board member at WCS and growth strategist supporting circular economy solutions. Today, I'm thrilled to be talking with Alison Cove, the founder and CEO of USEFULL, a tech-enabled plastic-free takeout container solution helping college campuses reduce single-use waste. Hi, Alison. Welcome.
Trish, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for having me today.
So let's dive in. Tell us about USEFULL and how it became a business idea.
So the idea for USEFULL came to me many, many years ago when I was working in consulting and ordering takeout all day, every day. And the waste was literally piling up at my desk. And I had this moment of introspection where I said to myself, Alison, you consider yourself an environmentalist. You love the ocean, you love the outdoors, and you understand the impact that these decisions are making, yet the waste is literally piling up at your desk. And so in that moment, I said, why can't I use the essentially Tupperware that I have at home? What's the barrier? And that sent me along this journey. I slept on the idea for many years. So that first moment of introspection, my first pitch deck I made in 2013, but really didn't do anything with it until 2018. But I think that was just a sign of the times. So I'm from Boston and Zipcar was just getting its start in 2013. The sharing economy wasn't yet a thing. Uber and Lyft, I think if I had told anyone that I was going to get in some stranger's car, they would have probably thought I was crazy. So the world needed to move along a little bit more before we were comfortable with reusing takeout food containers.
Yeah. I've had that personal dilemma myself. And so what did you discover when you were researching this problem?
It was 2018. One of my mentors early on said, fail fast and fail cheaply. So, I was going to buy a few thousand containers. We were going to go all in. It was going to be amazing. Instead, I bought 200 cups, identified one coffee shop, and then another mentor said, run it like a scientific experiment. What is the hypothesis you're testing with this pilot? And let's go from there. So that first hypothesis was, are people comfortable with the idea of reusing a takeout coffee cup? And long story short, I picked those cups. I thought they were going to be the best thing ever. But my mentor was right. It was very good. I did not buy a few thousand of them because the feedback I got was love the concept, love what you're building, hate these cups.
No.
But it set me off on this bigger journey.
So USEFULL started serving cafés.
Exactly. I was going cafe to cafe in Boston.
So what did that look like? Going in and you're talking to them about this idea.
So I was working with coffee shops in Boston, offering only coffee cups, one size, and it was a subscription model. So the consumer had to buy a subscription from me via my app, and then they would get a discount on their coffee. Some coffee shops were even offering like $1 off their coffee. And so it made economic sense if you bought more than like 3 coffees a month, which a lot of people do. However, I couldn't get the traction I needed. And I quickly learned that we are not economically rational people, maybe. So the analogy that I always use is grocery bags. So when I was a kid, my mom would embarrass us by bringing all those canvas bags to the grocery store, and she would get 5 cents off per bag. So Thanksgiving, we probably saved 50 cents. Now, when I go to the grocery store, I am charged 10 cents if I don't use a reusable bag. And now everyone brings a reusable bag. You're the crazy person with your arms full of groceries walking out if you forget your bag or you have a paper bag on your way out. Anyway, it was economically better when I was a kid, my mom was saving 50 cents off the grocery order. Now you walk out best case neutral, worst case costing you money if you forget your bag. However, behavior has changed with this upcharge. And so I use that to kind of reframe. That was a great learning from early on, but it has to be, we can't offer discounts for this because people don't necessarily respond well.
It's like we're being punished for being in a hurry. For me, at one point, I realized if I haven't brought my own cup and they don't offer a cup that I can sit and have, then I just won't have it. But that's not everyone, right? They have their habit. They go to their Starbucks and they get their cup and they leave, or whatever coffee shop. And there's now coffee shops that don't even have durable cups. They
Mhm.
serve everything out of to go. You completely changed your business model. So tell us about that.
Exactly. So leading up to COVID, really January 2020, I released an app. Had 10 coffee shops in Boston. I felt like we were gaining momentum. I hired my first employee. Things were going places. And then, of course, March 2020, rug was ripped right out from under me.
Yes.
Most of those coffee shops closed down for a month or two. No one wanted to reuse anything. And we were all sold a bill of goods about how single use was safer, which that's a separate conversation. But nonetheless, in order for this business to survive, I needed to find a different market. So pivoted entirely into higher education, closed down everything in the cafe retail world, pivoted entirely to higher education. And what I quickly learned was higher education revenue is directly tied to butts and seats or people in dorm rooms. And so they really needed to have people back on campus so that they could get their room and board revenue to keep the lights on. And in order to keep those students safe, they had to serve all the meals as takeout. And so that was going to both be a lot of waste and very expensive. So we were lucky enough to partner with some early schools to help transition to our reusable packaging. And that was the silver lining, saving grace of the COVID experience and having to entirely pivot out of going cafe to cafe in Boston.
Yeah. So what did that teach you about being a founder in times of uncertainty? Just completely having to rethink everything and start over.
For me, that has been the founder journey through and through. Knock wood, things are stable right now, but COVID certainly had to switch markets, shift the business model, shift everything. Supply chain issues then during COVID and subsequent to COVID really disrupted things because we design and contract manufacture all of our own stuff, and it was very difficult. Then I had developers based in Ukraine, and of course, then a war broke out there, and they were literally calling in from bunkers, which is something I never thought I'd experience as a founder. Then tariffs waged on stainless steel products, and we are stainless steel, we're plastic free. Never did I think geopolitical issues or a pandemic would impact my business so profoundly. I thought I was just going to get some cups, get some containers, and let's reuse them. This would be a very simple business, but it's turned into much more than that.
Yeah. And so you brought up materials, and I've been thinking about that because we didn't really dive in, but you can't really solve the plastic problem with more plastic, is how I always think of it. And so tell us about how you got there. Did you consider plastic at some point?
Great question. So the way that I define the plastic problem is twofold. One is environmental, right? Plastic creates a lot of waste. Production of plastic is detrimental to human health in many ways, from the air pollution. You probably know that most plastic is made from petroleum. So it's a byproduct of the oil and gas industry. So the environmental concerns of plastic are very real. However, I actually think it's more concerning the health impacts of plastic. The more and more research that comes out has tied serious health issues to plastics in the body. So I'm talking diabetes, heart disease, strokes, Alzheimer's, fertility issues, cancers. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And we're really just at the forefront of this research. We know that plastic, even labeled microwave or dishwasher safe, when it's at high heat, leaches microplastics into whatever it's touching. So when you put hot food in there or you microwave something, you are leaching those micro and nanoplastics into the food, even if it's labeled microwave safe. It's safe for the microwave. It's not safe for whatever food is in that that product.
Yeah.
Your microwave is safe.
Right.
However, you are not.
Right.
And so we are, for lack of a better phrase, poisoning ourselves by eating and drinking out of plastic.
I agree.
And that to me is a very big concern that we are just starting to understand. So as you said, Trish, we can't solve the plastic problem with more plastic. And the plastic problem is not just environmental. It is really focusing on the health and wellness of people.
Yeah.
So yes, Useful is plastic free.
I recently read that even cold food bleaches, and especially if it's acidic or has oils.
Yep.
So iced coffee, great example. People think, oh, well, at least I'm not heating it. So what do your campus systems look like today?
We have a product line of both double wall vacuum insulated products. So that's what keeps food or drink at the appropriate temperature for many hours. We also offer a product line that is single walled, and that's really for refrigerated foods in grab and go cases, for example. And so we pair our inventory with our technology. So students can tap their campus card to effectively check out a container, kind of like a library book, take it with them before it's due back for dishwashing. And we are able to operate plastic-free environments on these college campuses for both their retail, so think like student union type settings, as well as their residential dining halls, all takeout. Food is now plastic-free.
That's amazing. And you're also moving into the senior living space.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that, how it's maybe different, or is it just kind of a plug and play?
It's very similar. You know, we graduate from college into senior living communities. One, they seem like a lot more fun than college without the stress of exams. And
That's funny.
yeah, it seems like a lot of fun, but a lot of takeout happening in those communities as well. And so we're able to mirror systems that we have on college campuses in large part in senior living with some obvious operation tweaks and programmatic enhancements. But we've been able to take a lot of the lessons from higher education and apply them to senior living.
Yeah. What do you think is kind of the next step for you in terms of where you can take this? I see opportunities, and then just that behavior change, meeting like policy isn't keeping up with what needs to happen to support reuse systems.
Yeah, so the eternal optimist in me hopes that exposing so many people to reuse systems in higher education will really plant a seed for what the future can look like. And our future leaders, our young students in these environments can help pave the road for or blaze the trail. That's probably more environmentally friendly saying, blaze the trail for what a reuse economy could look like, what a circular economy could truly look like. As you said, it's really hard today to go cafe to cafe in communities because we lack the policies to make reuse the default packaging for both here and takeaway.
I think local governments can really play an important part there if they could
Absolutely.
supplement some of that, especially when they have opportunities where there's kind of dense dining areas or kind of almost closed loop where, you're in maybe like a market situation with 6 or 7 restaurants that can all share
Absolutely.
dishes. So what do you say about all of the solutions that are using plastic for their reuse system?
Great question. So I'm a bit of a black sheep in the reuse or circular economy world. Most other folks solving this problem are using plastic as their material of choice. And some nonprofits will say they're material agnostic or that plastic is good enough. Another analogy that I've heard is that, yes, stainless steel being plastic free is the ideal. But in the same way that if you can't be a vegan, at least be a vegetarian. Plastic is being a vegetarian in this situation, and being a vegan is stainless steel. The problem that I have with that is it's a personal choice, whether to be vegan, vegetarian, eat pescatarian, however you choose to eat, you get to decide how you eat. What I really am focusing on is a systemic topic, really systems level thinking. And I often equate it instead of individual choice to smoking. Smoking when I was a kid was generally accepted, right? You could smoke in restaurants, you could smoke anywhere, and you were exposed to smoke even if you made the personal decision not to smoke. And I think that is very analogous to what is happening today with plastics. I want to avoid plastic, so I'm trying very hard to avoid plastic. However, it is literally everywhere. And I can't get food without plastic today, even though I try so very hard. And so really is going to take systems level change to remove plastic from our food packaging. And I'm not just talking about takeout food packaging or the melamine plates in dining halls. I'm really talking about like sous vide or how my morning smoothie, my blueberries and my spinach are packed in plastic. It's a very, very big issue. I, as an entrepreneur and founder, am solving just a tiny piece of it where I'm focusing on takeout food packaging, which is the visible part to the consumer and a tangible marketing and educational opportunity for someone. But we are really just at the tip of the iceberg with this plastic problem and how it impacts our food.
Yeah.
And our bodies.
And our bodies, yeah. I mean, the reference to smoking, I've said that as well because they didn't think smoking was bad and then didn't want to believe it and didn't trust the science. And we're not trusting the science. That's very clear that
Right.
the microplastics are everywhere and they are affecting our hormones. They're causing tears in our heart valves. I mean, everywhere. And then there's the plastics, microplastics, and the nanoplastics. So those will just go right through cells. And that's crazy to me. So,
No, it's very alarming. And I think that the more research that's done, the more and more we'll see how plastic negatively impacts us. I will say the research is also showing that we can detox ourselves from plastics relatively easily, but it does take a concerted effort of avoiding it with your food, with your clothing, with everything. It takes effort. I'm hopeful that we can turn around this issue by figuring out ways to properly avoid it and have better health outcomes.
yeah, I think the more I make changes, the easier it is, but I'm definitely in the minority, I know. So like my favorite salad dressing went to plastic. So now I make my own salad dressing and I like it so much more and I have more variety and it doesn't go bad and I'm throwing away bottles that got stuck
Right.
somewhere in the fridge. And all the little things over time and getting my spices from the food bins is amazing because I don't need a giant bottle of 4 types of paprika. I
Right.
can get a little bit of each one and I can get what I need and not waste. So there's also the food side.
Are you building solutions for climate, energy, or sustainability? WCS Talks Unplugged, the podcast from women in clean tech and sustainability, is looking for voices shaping the future of the clean economy. We feature founders, innovators, policymakers, researchers, and community leaders working on real-world climate solutions and sharing the stories behind the work. If you have insights, lessons learned, or ideas that can inspire others across the climate ecosystem, we want to hear from you. Visit Women in Clean Tech Sustainability to learn more about the community and how to submit yourself or nominate a guest for WCS Talks Unplugged, because the best climate solutions start with conversations.
You mentioned you just have this one piece of this problem, which we just need everyone to cover kind of one
Right.
piece and they can all work together. So what role should founders like you play in pushing this entire sector forward?
So I think education is a huge piece of that and marketing the issue and explaining the issue. The more knowledge there is around the plastics issue, the better. And then, of course, it's having creative people to problem solve, understanding what the problem statement is. It's not just plastics. It needs to be specific to how the plastics impact kitchens or transportation, whatever it is. Understanding the problem statement is really important for founders to then go on and develop a solution and market it and scale it. But I think we're just at the beginning of the wave of a plastic-free future and plastic-free products being offered for both B2B sales and direct to consumer.
And you mentioned college aged. I think that's really important because that's, I feel like, where the rush of your life begins, right? And so it's so easy to just take shortcuts, just
Right.
grab and go. Everything's grab and go. But if you take a second to understand the problem and that it's huge help, I think we're distracted by so many things right now, but I feel like the message will get through and more people will start hearing this and believe it. I know I'm always
Absolutely.
talking about it. I tell my friends don't let friends drink microplastics. And hurt me, but then they are more curious, right? Alison, you have this one down.
We have lots of problems to solve. There's a lot of opportunity here for smart entrepreneurs with a lot of tenacity to get after it. I am solving just a little piece of it today.
And I think it's a really important piece. So I'm so excited to hear all about it. And so for the founders out there, what advice would you give a new founder that you wish someone gave you?
So I learned this with one of my first partners, the idea of crawl, walk, run. It's similar to the advice that another mentor gave me of fail fast, fail cheaply, and to test hypotheses. So those are some of my favorite learnings. But the crawl, walk, run concept makes sense when you're a parent, but it's the idea of starting small so that you can iterate. And you don't know what you're going to learn along the way. And so starting small, give yourself the opportunity to crawl and learn, get stability, gain those core muscles so that you can then walk before you're ready to really start running.
Yeah. So what do you hope listeners are going to reconsider next time they go to get some food and drinks in a disposable container?
I think it's great to have a conversation with whomever you're buying food from about options and how you would like options. Other avenues include working with local governments to advocate for reuse, skip the stuff ordinances, extended producer responsibility or EPR. There are legislative and local ordinance efforts. Other communities have banned or taxed single use takeout packaging in the same way that some communities have done with grocery bags, plastic bags. So there are many different vehicles. We're all learning as an entire world about what is most effective to solve this problem, but we have to start trying. And status quo is essentially unacceptable.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned having this idea in 2013 and then kind of starting it in 2018.
Yeah, so I slept on it a long time.
But I love that you did that and that all the people out there that have some idea, it's never too late, you know?
Absolutely. And the success of a startup is often tied to the timing, right? Is the
Yep.
timing right? So you could have the smartest founder, the most money, the best product, the best idea, the best marketing, all of it, but timing could be wrong. And the forces that impact timing are entirely outside of your control. That is not something that I like to hear because I am a control freak and I think that I can just power through and get it done. But timing is very important to the success of a startup. But I will say, I do think the time is now for the reuse market, for the circular economy. There is a ton of momentum in this space. There's a lot of consumer demand for it. EPRs are helping to push this along in many states. And the conversation about the waste issue and the health issue is really at the forefront. For many years, I felt like the crazy person in the room talking about this. But recently I was at the DMV getting an updated driver's license and I was in the waiting room and up on the screen was a story about plastics and plastics in your food and drink. And it was this moment of what I've been saying for years is finally mainstream, right? It's at the DMV where I don't expect to see anything like that.
Yeah.
So that was a very cool moment for me to.
When was that? Was that before 2018 or
No, that was
after?
just recently, like in the last year.
Yeah. I was going to say that's a while.
Very
It
recent.
probably
Yeah.
wasn't quite
I was
ready
getting
yet.
a real ID, if that helps. So
Right.
within the
Yes.
last year.
Yeah. So your timing with 2018 and 19, you were,
I was early.
but then 2020 happened
Yep,
and blew
exactly.
everything up. And not just for you, but definitely the foodware industry. I mean, restaurants
Absolutely.
had to change everything. And then, of course, yes, they said that it's safer to serve everything on throwaway. But then the problem is that so many restaurants got rid of their durable plates and
Just
dishwashers. And now
craziness.
they think that somehow it's cheaper for them to just not have a dishwasher or someone to wash the dishes. But the problem is that the cost of this, we could also talk about this for another hour on a different podcast, but the cost of the medical costs of the plastic.
Right. We haven't internalized the externalities of this plastic packaging. So a plastic package costs, let's say, 40 cents. And we just think it costs 40 cents, but it doesn't, right? So all of the waste hauling associated with that, all of the health impacts of eating and drinking out of it, which are impossible to quantify. Its health impacts of eating out of plastic are much more than the 40 cents a container.
Mm-hmm.
And then the waste, treating that waste is not internalized in the price of a single-use container.
Right. And do you think EPR is going to help in the next 5 years?
I'm an eternal optimist again, and
Yep.
I
Yep.
really
Yep.
do hope so. I think the proof will be in the pudding and how they're implemented and exactly the terminology. Some of my concerns are that people will turn to compostable packaging instead of true reuse. Compostable packaging, in my mind, is really just expensive trash because it needs to be treated in a commercial composter that is heat and temperature controlled. You just throw most products, if you just throw them out on the sidewalk, they're going to be there in many, many years. They're not just going to compost or biodegrade. And it's really expensive packaging. It's also still single use, right? So it still has concerns about waste. And then we start to explore bioplastics, which are plastics made of natural things, but it's the same chemical structure as plastics. And I think there's still a lot of research that needs to be done to understand how healthy or unhealthy are those bioplastics in comparison to petroleum-based plastics. So we really have a lot of unknowns that are scary and have big health impacts.
Yeah, it's like layers of the problem.
And then I would be remiss if I don't share my concern about the reuse and circular economy industry as a whole. I know I've mentioned previously that folks are container agnostic or say reusable plastic is better than no plastic. My concern with that assertion is that we are retraining the world to understand what the circular economy is, what the reuse world is. We are trying to build trust within this ecosystem, within this new economy. And if we pick the wrong material out of the gate, we undermine consumer confidence with this way of the world, with this way of the future. And we undermine the circular economy and the greater reuse movement. So my concern is by hitching our wagon to plastic, we're going to undo all of the hard work we've done building the circular economy because it is the wrong material.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know stainless steel is more expensive. However,
So is healthcare.
exactly, healthcare is so expensive, and you can create businesses that are like ours that is still a cost savings over single use while improving the consumer experience, while improving the health outcomes of folks eating or drinking out of our containers. It's just powerful to me. And it's scary to me how much founders in this space turn a blind eye to the material type and instead just want to get another check from an investor who understands that plastics are cheap and so therefore margins must be better with plastic.
Right. I think I am also an optimist in that I know that we've made strides in the reuse and refill worlds, and with the education and with the solutions, that it'll become more mainstream. And so we just have to choose them. And
Absolutely.
I like that you mentioned talk to restaurants that you go to, because I have done that. And I've asked, if I bring a platter, will you put my sushi on it?
Right.
And maybe then that could lead to them having a borrow system for their platters and not boxing it up in that black plastic even. Like, people think that it's safe and people think that recycling works and people are
Right.
thinking that the industrial composting is helping. It's not. You're right. It is just more expensive trash.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is keeping you hopeful about the future? What should we all leave this with?
People want to do good in this world, and people do want to live fulfilled lives. And we can solve this problem. It will take leaders and it will take innovators to help get us there, but we have the capacity to do it. Where there's a will, there's a way. We can do it. And I think the more education and research that's done into this problem, it will help innovators, policymakers help us march towards a stronger future.
I agree. Well, Alison, thank you for sharing not just your story, but the story behind the story and all the decisions, challenges, pivots, lessons learned. I think those are so critical for not just founders, but everyone in their careers is figuring it out. And I think my biggest takeaway is that building a better future isn't a straight line.
Right.
It takes vision and resilience and
It's for sure.
perseverance. Exactly. So again, thank you for sharing your story, and thanks for reminding us that the future that we want isn't going to simply happen, that we have to build it.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Trish, for having me on today.
That's it for today's episode of WCS Talks Unplugged, where we share real stories, real solutions for the mind and the planet. A huge thank you to our guest for joining us and for the work she is doing to move the clean economy forward. And thank you for listening, for showing up with curiosity, hope, and a desire to make a difference. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone in your network who cares about climate, justice, innovation, or building a more sustainable world. This podcast is brought to you by Women in Clean Tech and Sustainability, a global community supporting the next generation of climate leaders. To learn more, become a member, or get involved, visit womenincleantechsustainability.org. Until next time, this is WCS Talks Unplugged. Stay inspired, stay engaged, and as always, stay unplugged.